Hello everybody and welcome to this all-new episode of the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm your host, Monica Moore, and once again we have a fantastic show for you tonight talking about everything that's been going on in the fall sports postseason. To help me go through all the news and notes from around the region, I'm delighted to be joined by some of the best sports writers from around the region. Paul Frummelt from the Fairfax Times, Phil Murphy from Digital Sports, and BJ Cooper-Lewis, a contributor to the Washington Post. Before we jump into everything, let's thank the folks that help make our program possible. First of all, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs. Also, special thanks to Craig Sturbutzel for the fantastic photos you're going to see throughout tonight's episode. You can get copies of this program at www.pressboxvideo.com and check out our website with the Video Vault feature. You can become a fan of the Fairfax Sports Network on our Facebook page. And don't forget to send us any story ideas, comments, or suggestions that you might have. Well, first of all, I definitely want to congratulate the Fairfax Rebels. They are your 2009 state champions in competitive cheerleading, just edging out Stonebridge, who was last year's champions. They finished with a score of 261.5 to get the title. Last week, we talked about some college signings for McLean, in particular, Chris Russo, who's going on to play at VMI. I want to congratulate a couple of other players who have committed to go on and play at the next level. Hannah Longwell, who is a lacrosse player. She's a phenomenal goalkeeper playing at Colgate next year. Also, Sean Fitzgerald playing baseball at Notre Dame. And Lauren McColgan will be playing softball at George Mason. And speaking of college signings, also definitely want to congratulate safety Dante Taylor from Lee High School, who is committed to play at Miami, Ohio next year. Well, let's talk about some football because the postseason is underway and we're going to take you through every single game that happened this past weekend and show you some highlights. So let's kick it off with the Division VI quarterfinals. Woodson squaring off against Oakton. Looking at the numbers there, Woodson having a phenomenal evening. Once again, Connor Riley putting up a strong effort, leading his Cavalier club. And again, guys, the thing that keeps standing out to me about Woodson, I picked them to win Division VI Northern Region Championship, is the diversity. Every single one of those touchdowns, yet again, was scored by a different Woodson Cavalier.
Hey guys, Paul Frummelt from the Fairfax Times alongside of Phil Murphy from Digital Sports. And Phil, that just goes on the field general. You know, he's able to distribute the ball.
Yep, Connor Riley coming out with something to prove after not being named the second-team quarterback in the Patriot District and showing he is probably the second-best quarterback in the region by that count. Oakton in this game heavily outgained Woodson because they had 3 drives start at their own 1-yard line. Woodson does it with field position, does it with defense, and does it with their athletes on offense, as Monica mentioned. And you'll see that as we check out the highlights right here. First quarter, Oakton back to punt, and that's a problem. Punt pro has been an issue all year for Oakton. Ray Goins tackled for a 14-yard loss, setting up shop for Woodson at the 11. Just 2 plays later, Clarksville, Tennessee in the house. Connor Riley, 2-yard touchdown run, makes it 7-0 to the Cavs. Ray Goins kick a field goal, so would Alex Willard. So we are at 10-3 in favor of Woodson. Late second half, just a minute left. 3rd and 15, not a running down, but I think Connor Riley deleted that email. He's taking this 38 yards down to the Oakton 22-yard line before finally getting taken down inbounds. Clock running, Woodson forced to call its last timeout. So no age discrimination on this team. Senior Connor Riley going to sophomore Jonathan Stokes. Breaks 2 tackles, gets outside, ceiling block from Colin Dempsey. Your score at recess, 17-3. Teams had orange wedges and a Capri Sun, came back out. Second half, fourth quarter actually, Paul Fridley takes a pitch on the triple option and Steve McQueen, take it down a notch. This is his neighborhood. Gets outside, 57-yard burst. He is not slow. Only carry of the game. Woodson though leads 24-3. Oakton, though, driving the length of the field. Overall, Cabal caps things off. 1-yard touchdown run. He finished with a game-high 96 rushing yards. Your score at the moment, 24-10. Still a 2-score game, though, in favor of the Cavaliers. Here, Oakton went for the onside kick, recovered 1, returned, was able to get a score. James Johnson breaks free for the final touchdown. That made it 31-10. Oakton would score on a flea flicker to close things out. That explains Jimmy Boone's passing touchdown. He finished 263 passing yards, but again, the offensive diversity for Woodson, 3 players with 50 or more rushing yards. Oakton getting a lot of yards of offense. Their offense came to play in this game. They are the defending Division VI champs, but Woodson's diversity too much to overcome.
So the Woodson Cavaliers are the #1 seed, holding court, and Phil, Is Woodson a team we need to be talking about when we talk about Robinson, Lake Braddock? Those are teams that we like, obviously. Is Woodson a team that's right there?
Well, they're the number 1 seed. Of course they are. I mean, you look at this team, and every week we overlook them, but week to week they've been the most consistent team of all these teams. They had no down weeks. Now, Robinson, you could also make that argument, although Westfield was able to come in and beat them. But Woodson's lost. They got down early to Lee when Lee was playing at full strength, and Lee was undefeated at that point, went undefeated for the first 5 weeks. So I think Woodson is absolutely one of those teams we need to talk about because they're not going to leave their home field. Every game they have coming the rest of the way is a home game. They were the number 1 seed at the same record as Robinson, but it had a stronger strength of schedule, which is saying something against the Concord team.
Head coach Trey Taylor, definitely, in my book, the Northern Region Coach of the Year. Okay, that's number one Woodson. Let's jump over to number 2 Robinson. They played Chantilly. Monica's all the details.
So a Concord district matchup in this quarterfinal, as you said, Paul. Robinson taking on Chantilly, and once again, Robinson just too much to handle. An interesting thing about this one, the score was tied. That was the game-winning field goal by Jordan Vassell, but so not necessarily the high-scoring affair that some may have been expecting, but the running game was in full effect. Once again, this time it was Jared Velasquez that put up the higher numbers, but Connor Riley having a very respectable night. And guys, Robinson, I think, is just looking really strong right now because they're clicking on all cylinders. I think a lot of teams are going to have trouble with them.
Yeah, Robinson doing a great job picking up the win. Not a pretty win. We saw some close games, closer games than we thought earlier on. This one of them. Phil, okay, Robinson's running game was working, but not as much as before. Connor Riley only 68 yards. Velasquez 119, but these kids are usually both over 100 and well over 100.
Well, it wasn't the game Connor Riley had last week, who went 7 carries, 305 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But again, still a solid running effort. They went over 200 yards as a team, which in high school football usually amounts to a win. Here it did again. But Robinson in this game, the key, the running game, the defense, and remember, a lot of Chantilly's losses have come against the cream of the Northern Region crop. They lost to Woodson. They lost to South County on the road. So again, and one of their losses came at home to Robinson. So this team is used to playing great teams, and they haven't really had any bad losses on their schedule. We'll go to these highlights from this game and check things out. And it's scoreless in the second quarter. Chantilly getting things done. Carson Romine going up top to Braden Voorhees, juggling it to himself. Great athleticism there. 26-yard grab for Voorhees, getting the ball rolling for Chantilly. And here, Carson Romine with the bush push from Danny Lauro. Romine on the day, team high 7 carries for 40 yards, and that your score 7-0. But Robinson coming back. KB Muscatwani, 35-yard reception, set up this. Jared Velasquez, Paul, he went to Jared, 3 yards score, 12 carries, $1.19, and that your score. After, at the half, 7-7, but fourth quarter, 4th and 1, got to go to the big running back, Connor Riley. Yes, only 22 carries, 68 yards. First game this season without a touchdown, but he got the yards when they counted. No doubt, best short yardage running back in the region. Driving down, all this said, all the great running games, this game is decided by a kicker, Jordan Vassell with the boot. Zanalotta to the hold and just drills it. Ball was a laser 26-yard field goal. That is your final 10-7 to Robinson. Yes, not the dominant effort you expect in a 2-7 game, but that's the nature of the Northern Region right now, Paul. Balanced teams across the board. We expect to see close games throughout the postseason, especially against teams that are rivals like these.
That brings us to our game of the week, Lake Braddock versus Fairfax. The Rebels upset-minded. The number 6 Rebels taking on the number 3 Bruins. Monica Moore has all the details.
I think you just hit the nail on the head because the Fairfax Rebels were very upset-minded. People might have expected for Lake Braddock to take the lead early on. That was not the case. This one got started off, both teams looking evenly matched. Lake Braddock making a couple of mistakes. Let's look at the highlights because the score at halftime was probably not what people expected. There you see some great defense, taking down Michael Niebrick, one of the top quarterbacks, not only in the state, people looking at him in the country. Jack Beckert, you see his arm there, but there's the interception. It's number 5. It's Thomas Stickford. We've talked so much about him this season. He's so wonderful at getting those interceptions, returning them for touchdowns. A lot of people have taken note of him. Niebrick there just slipping a little bit. It was a little out, not a lot of rain, but Beckert again, you see his arm there, another interception. So interceptions all around. So teams working out a little kinks in the early goings. It looked like there was some nerves going on. Of course, this is the quarterfinal. It's Fairfax there for the first time in a while. Here you see another play just bobbling around. So the team's getting used to playing out there and just working out those kinks. So by halftime, the score is probably not what people would have expected, 10-7. Here we're going to see Niebrick again. You'll see his arm why people have a lot of respect for him. But there's the interception again. You saw the flag on the play. Beckert coming up with that one. He plays every single possession for the Fairfax Rebels. He plays offense. He plays defense. He plays special teams. He's all everything for the Rebels. A big reason they're there. Here you see nice play right there in the end zone. Brandon Johnson, number 7. A lot of people have been talking about him as we've been moving toward this postseason. Nice handoff there from Beckert, but another fumble ball. Just Fairfax having trouble holding on to it. And then Osmond Manzaray, number 11, a lot of rushing yards for Manzaray throughout this one. Niebrick had a lot of rushing yards. Here you'll see him run for a bit, but Manzaray as well was very impressed with him. He's going to be very important. There's Niebrick's rushing touchdown, but Manzaray is going to be very important for Lake Braddock as the postseason continues. Another interception, nice return there for Fairfax. Fairfax really played down to the wire. This one could have been in question. They made things very difficult on Lake Braddock. There you see another nice handoff for Fairfax, picking up some yards there, and then that dominant Lake Braddock defense. You'll see Beckert here once again. Just things didn't go the way of the Rebels when it was all said and done, but you can't take anything away from that young man. I was so impressed by him. He's probably Ivy League bound. Here's Manzaray again, rushing towards the end zone, finally taken down. But I thought that he had a huge night. And then Niebrick getting past a couple of defenders heading towards the end zone there. That one did not count. Niebrick thought it did. As you see from those highlights, the refs wave it off. Fairfax trying to make a last stand and then cough up the football, Lake Braddock ball. That was a heartbreaker right there for the Rebels. But you see not giving up. Manzaray being taken down by the defense. Field goal for Lake Braddock. Nick Weiler, their field goal kicker, had a great night. Here another return here, number 5 for Fairfax, running all the way, picking up a lot of yards. Again, Fairfax trying to get to the end zone. This was their last big chance to try to take this one away from Lake Braddock, and they just don't. Again, cough up the football. All those costly mistakes hurt the Rebels, guys, but you have to give them a lot of credit. They had a phenomenal season. Jack Beckert, in my opinion, one of the top players in the Liberty District this year. So, Paul, I know you were there as well. What were your impressions? What are the things you think Lake Braddock is focusing on as they head into next week's matchup?
Well, Lake Braddock, you know, they're going against Robinson. They played Robinson earlier, close game, losing by 7, I believe. They're going to be upset-minded themselves now, taking on the Rams. 3
things I want to take away from this game. 1, Michael Niebrick, first time this season held under both 100 passing yards and 100 rushing yards. Fairfax did a great job of keeping him in check. Another thing I want to mention, Jack Beckert has to be this region's utility player of the year. In years past, the utility player of the year has gone to the best player to not be a player of the year offensively or defensively. So with that said, it's likely to be someone like Connor Riley from Woodson, a great player bound for Temple. But if you define utility player, no one defines it quite like Jack Beckert. And Paul, my 3rd point, what high school did you graduate from?
Fairfax.
What high school did I graduate from?
Lake Braddock.
And Lake Braddock gets the 5-point win in this game. Great effort all around, but again, Fairfax really took this one down to the wire, and old habits die hard for the Rebels. Fumbles have been their issue all season. Cost them a game against Robinson in week 2, almost cost them against Stewart in week 3, a game they had 522 rushing yards but needed a final minute touchdown. Here, fumbles cost them a comeback bid, but Lake Braddock, their defense gets it done.
This game, like the entire season for Fairfax, we mentioned not making the playoffs since 1999, not getting a winning record since 1999. This season was about earning a little respect. When I talked to Chris Haddock after the game, he said, I think Lake Braddock will agree we played them tough. He said, you know, they earned the respect of Lake Braddock in that game by playing the Bruins so tough. Let's not lie here. The Bruins are a more talented team. I think a better team, but Fairfax, you know, they played down the wire. You take away 1 or 2 of those fumbles, things get interesting.
They absolutely get interesting. You may have had the best first-round upset of the season, but again, Paul, you look around Liberty Patriot District. He said this is maybe the year for the Patriot District. A game we didn't think that would happen in was the next game on our slate. Number 4, Westfield hosting number 5, South County.
Yeah, I agree. And before we get to that, Phil, let's just jump into the interview Monica had after the game with Michael Niebrick and head coach Jim Poitras.
I'm standing here with our player of the game, Michael Niebrick, and head coach Jim Poitras. Michael, you win your first playoff game heading into the playoffs here. How does it feel?
It feels good. You know, it was a tough win, but you know, win's a win in the playoffs. You just got to survive. So it's a good win for the team. You know, now we got to move on to maybe Robinson or Chantilly. So we got a lot of work to do.
The play that sums up to me how I've seen you play all year was at the end when you were rushing with the ball and it was taking a ton of defenders to take you down. Can you talk about what was going through your mind?
You know, I really just wanted to get the first down. I know Coach came into the huddle after the play and said all we need is a first down and game's over. So I just kept my feet moving, and you know, unfortunately got called back for holding, but we wound up winning, so it doesn't really matter.
And Coach, speaking of the running game, I have to ask you about Osman Mansouri because he had a fantastic effort tonight. Can you talk about his play?
I mean, we've known all along that Osman's a heck of a football player. He's a real strong kid despite his small size, but that's what they were giving us, the run, and so we just kept feeding Osman, and he made some big plays.
And what are you most pleased with about your team's performance tonight?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question because I'm actually irritated with him. I didn't feel like we played up to our capabilities, but you know what I am pleased about is that they didn't quit. You know, the opportunities where they had that glazed look in their eye at halftime, and I was very concerned about it, but we kept on fighting, played harder and harder the whole time, created turnovers, and in the end, that's what won the game.
Well, Coach, Michael, congratulations.
All right, so again, there's Poythress. Poythress doing what head coach Jim Poythress does. Not too happy with the performance, but you know, a win's a win. That's what Michael Niebrick said.
Yeah, this isn't the same team that Lake Braddock beat 49-7 in the preseason. I think they came in. A lot of people came in expecting this to be a beatdown of a game and have Tyler Quigley coming in and cleaning things up for Niebrick at the end. They didn't expect to have the first team on the field at the end, but Fairfax, again, we can't say enough about that valiant effort, how well they played. This wasn't so much Lake Braddock playing poorly for the entire game. Now, Lake Braddock didn't play its best game of the season by any regard, but Fairfax really forced this to be as close of a game as it was.
Exactly, and now, Phil, let's jump over to number 4,
now
Westfield.
Now we have South County Westfield.
Monica Moore has all the details.
Well, I understand your anticipation to get here, guys, because if there was an upset of the week, it was this one. But I don't know that you can really call a 5 beating a 4 an upset. But South County taking down Westfield. And this one, I think, particularly surprising just because Westfield was on such a roll, blazing through the Concord District. Those last 5 weeks of the regular season, they looked exceptionally strong. Another interesting thing that you guys should know about this one is that the scoring was complete after the second quarter, and South County just held on to win the game-winning touchdown by Anayemi Ayabote. So, guys, the Stallions, great effort by then, but I think that Westfield has to be happy with how they turned their season around mid-season and performed really well throughout the Concord District.
The early storyline we were talking about is the Patriot District. Can they top the Concord District this year? Mm-hmm. And then kind of the region storyline changed to look at the Bulldogs, look at what Westfield's doing. But you're forgetting, Westfield had a tough time playing out-of-district opponents, most of them being Patriot District opponents.
Yeah, they played a couple out-of-district opponents as Patriot. They played Woodson, they played Lee, they played West Potomac. And they in this game they faced South County. So this Westfield team, we were talking, yes, after week 5, they've won 5 in a row. And South County had been going the other way. In the last 4 weeks, South County had scored 23 total points. So you think that's a recipe for disaster. And this one had Westfield winning a low-scoring game written all over it. Like I said, you got to take out the eraser here because South County really changed the complexion of this one. As we get to the highlights, it was South County striking first. Erin Andrews getting hot for South County. Not ESPN Erin Andrews. She's always hot. South County Erin Andrews gets hot on this 9-yard touchdown run, 7-0. But while Brian Montague is running the streets, Paul, everyone else is just tiptoeing. He takes it 18 yards to the hoos. Your score after 1-7-7. Now Westfield striking again. Gary Turner from Danny Fenyuk off the screen, but it counts all the same. Your score at that point, 13-7. That was set up by a fumble recovery. But South County trying to drive again, but watch Ryan Sweet catch it off the wide receiver's back, if I can spit that out. 9-yard return to the South County 18. And here is Kendall Anderson Paul taking it 18 yards off tackle left and running over a defensive back at the goal line. That's one for the highlight reel, 23-7. South County, though, 3 scores in the final 4:38 of the first half. Sparked by Hey DJ, that's my DJ, David Jordan. 3-yard run there, 1-yard run here. He finished 17 carries, 83 yards, 2 scores. Your score at that point, 23-20. But Paul, when Westfield trying to run out the clock with under a minute left in this half, the Butler did it in the den with the candlestick. Josh Butler recovers the fumble, takes it 17 yards all the way back to the Westfield 28-yard line, and with time ticking down in the half, Onyemi Ayabote is the bomb like tick-tick. Aaron Andrews going upstairs to his BFF, the junior, pulls it down, 28-yard score, 27-23 to South County at that point. And then South County's defense allowed 59 total yards in the second half, 14 in the fourth quarter. Mark Jorgensen, which I learned today is also the name of the captain of the Danish national soccer team, not him, different Mark Jorgensen, picks it off, seals the win. South County gets a stunner. I personally disagree with what Monica said. I think this was an upset. I think with how South County had been playing coming into this game, it took them a lot for it to turn around, but credit Coach Shields and his defense, especially in the second half, really shutting down the diverse Westfield attack and putting up 27 points, more than they had put up since week 6 in this region, their win over West Springfield.
It's a good lead into BJ Kubarulis talking with Andre Simmons and Aaron Andrews in the Players Lounge.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Players Lounge. I'm BJ Kubarulis. Joining me in studio here today, we have two special guests from Lorton, the South County Stallions. To my immediate left here is Andre Simmons, one of the top defensive backs in the northern region and all of the Washington area. And then to his left side there is the quarterback of the Stallions, Aaron Andrews. Both guys are coming off of a great win against Westfield. We'll talk a little bit about that. Andre is committed to go play football at Vanderbilt. We're going to talk to him about that as well. Aaron, coming off an injury, throws a key touchdown pass. We're going to talk about that as well, guys. So speaking of that touchdown pass, Aaron, let's start with you. This is a South County team that is a newer program, has been around for a few years under Coach Pete Bendorf, but really this is the team that's starting to solidify the Lorton area as a football area. Westfield, coming into that first-round playoff game, has been a power for quite some time. What did it feel like to throw the winning touchdown pass, and what did it feel like to beat Westfield?
Oh, it felt amazing. Like I said, throwing the touchdown pass was a breathless experience. And, one of the receivers, Oyemi, he made a play on the ball and came down with the ball and gave us a go-ahead score. And beating Westfield is always a new experience. And that was the first time in school history that we beat them. I played them as a sophomore for my first time, and that didn't go so well. And beating them this year, my senior year, and as our first playoff win was just an absolutely tremendous experience.
Yeah, and speaking of experience, you've had a difficult experience this year. You come into the year, it's your senior year, you get hurt against Annandale. I was at the game, and then you're out for a couple of weeks, you come back, and really it all built up to this game. You had your best game when it counted in the playoffs. What did that feel like to kind of make that comeback complete?
It felt amazing. I've worked so hard over the past couple of years, and sophomore year, junior year, now this year, and I realized that this year, being a captain and a team leader, that it was just time to step up and make plays. And thankfully, some of my teammates gave me key blocks and made plays on the balls that gave us this win.
All right, speaking of making plays, there's a guy in studio here with us today that is known for making some plays. Andre Simmons here to my immediate left is a guy that's drawn a lot of interest. You came into the year with 8 Division I scholarships, I'm sure a whole lot more letters and more. Finally decided on Vanderbilt. We'll get to that in a moment, but I want to talk to you about this season in particular. Coming into this year, did you think that this South County team really had a chance to make a push for the playoff spot?
Well, actually, I did. We have a lot of talent. This is the first year where we had so much talent on defense. The only concern was maybe experience. Not a lot of the kids have actually played, but we pushed all summer and off-season workout, and I just knew that when it came time to play, that they were going to make plays, and they did. So,
speaking of making plays, you've done a lot of that this year. I just got out of the Washington Post All-Met meeting today, and as many of you might have followed on .com and in the print edition of the paper at Washington Post, we've been doing in-season All-Mets, and Andre has been on the in-season All-Met list from cover to cover, from start to finish of this year, really speaking volumes about his play this year. Can't really reveal anything about what will be in the final edition, but we'll see as that continues to develop with the playoffs coming up. We're going to talk about Woodson coming up, not the best experience during the regular season, but I want to talk about how playing in the Patriot District has prepared you guys. This is a district that the Concord was always thought as the toughest district, but this year, the Patriot was really where the best football was played. How did that prepare you guys to go ahead and beat a team like Westfield?
Well, like you said, everybody's always been high on the Concord, but the Patriot was very tough this year, and just being able to know that you have to play every game hard and you can't lay off any time in the season. There's not going to be an easy game, helped us prepare, so we just know how to work hard every week. So I think
Speaking of working hard, you got your work cut out for you this week. You're one of the top defensive backs in the area, going up against one of the top quarterbacks in the area, and Connor Riley from top-seeded Woodson. Woodson is 10-1. They beat you guys 35-0 less than 2 weeks ago. So, that kind of really sets the stage for, guys trying to really overcome the odds here. You're a lower seed. You got blown out last time you played them. How do you kind of keep your focus going into that game, especially you when you have such a tough assignment to kind of, read Connor on the other end?
Well, I don't think it'll be actually so hard. Our coach has prepared us well. I think the first game we came out there, it didn't go our way, but we have a chip on our shoulder and we've been working extremely hard. And this game is going to be a very important game to us. Everybody's expecting them to win, and I kind of like the underdog role. So I think we'll come out there victorious.
All right, Aaron, this week as a quarterback, you're a team leader. You guys, I'm sure, have, with Coach Pete Bendorf, sat down and watched some film about what you have to do. For Woodson's defense, specifically, what are the things that you see that maybe, without giving away Coach's X's and O's, what are the things that you guys are going to have to do to be successful against Woodson's defense?
It just comes down to us executing as an offense as a whole. I mean, come down to line play, them making their blocks, me making my reads correctly, backs picking up blitzes, making the right cuts. And it comes down to us playing as an offense together to be able to come out victorious and put points up on the board.
All right, so guys, quickly, we've got about almost a minute left. I want to ask each of you to scout each other. And that's great because you play such different positions, and I'm sure you go up against each other in practice as well. How many times has he picked you off in practice? Does he get you quite a bit or no?
Well, him being a two-way player, he kind of knows the plays, but we've gone back and forth throughout the season. So
very diplomatic. Good answer. Good answer. Okay, scout Andre for me. What are the things that he does well?
He can read quarterback's eyes. He knows how to break on the ball. He has good makeup speed, and he seems to be in the right place at the right time when we're running offense against defense, and he's a great playmaker.
All right, so right place at the right time. He's just lucky, is what you're telling me. Is he just telling me? I'm kidding. All right, so Andre, same question. I mean, Aaron is a quarterback that has done a good job leading the charge this year. He's at times split time with, was it Evan at quarterback when he was hurt, coming back. He made a great comeback, great game in the playoffs. Seems to be a gamer. Walk me through what he's like as a quarterback.
Well, he loves to compete. He never likes to lose, and if he makes a bad play, the next play he gets up, brushes it off, and then comes out there and makes a big play the next play. So he makes a lot of big plays.
All right. Speaking of making big plays, I want to thank these two gentlemen for making some plays with me here tonight in the Players Lounge. I want to thank Andre Simmons of South County, headed to Vanderbilt. Good luck with that. Also, Aaron Andrews having a great senior year for the Stallions as they head in to the second round of the Northern Region Playoffs against W.T. Woodson. For the Players Lounge, I'm B.J. Kubarulis. Until next week. Back to you, Monica.
Okay, well, let's take a little break from football before we go into the Division V quarterfinals and talk about some volleyball, because this weekend was the Northern Region Tournament. So let's talk about how we got there with the semifinal games. First of all, you see there's South County defeating Stonebridge. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and admit it for those who missed the show last week. I completely missed the whole thing, because I had both of the wrong teams in the final. But South County defeating Stonebridge, you see there Lindsay Stevens and Simone Otwey, Sensational. Those two young ladies, phenomenal hitters. There was just nothing that Stonebridge could do. We talked about how Amanda Miller was out with that broken fibia. Vanessa Page stepped up for the Bulldogs, had a valiant effort for her club, and Lindsey Gill, as always, with those 23 digs, but just not enough to overcome South County. South County advancing on to the final, and they would have a date with the winner of the second semifinal, which was Langley against Robinson. And you see Langley surprising some. Again, I predicted that Robinson would win the whole tournament. Langley surprised some people there with that huge win. Elise Richardson is the heart and soul of that team with 26 digs. And then Nikki Hero, the sophomore setter, 26 assists. It took her a little while during the season to come into her own, had to get used to the hitters. They had to get used to their sophomore setter. But during the postseason, she certainly was a huge factor for the Saxons. So with that, we head into the Northern Region Final, which was played on Saturday. Starting off, Langley looked sensational in this one. The first game was entirely theirs. They had the experience. Remember, they were there 2 years ago for that 2007 Northern Region Championship that they won. Some of those young players on the team now on this club. You see Simone Otway there in the middle of the net on the right side of your screen. She was sensational the entire match, but again, everything going Langley's way during the first game. But then as things continued moving along during game 2, South County turned the tide, and a big reason for that was Simone Otway. She was such a dominant force. She's an amazing hitter. She's an amazing blocker. College coaches all over the country are looking at her. There you see one of those blocks that I'm talking to you about. People everywhere are looking to have her come and play for them. So South County turning the tide, another big block from Otway. It looked like that one was one of the ones that was out of bounds, but she really riled up her team. There you see Catherine Kane there, number 10 from Langley. She's their big hitter. Just not enough she could do. And then Carly Owen, I was very impressed with her. She had a little trouble with the serve receive. That got her a little bit out of her element, made things tougher for her, harder to get her head back into the game. But I thought she rallied really well. You see there, South County defeating Langley 3-1. After that first game, South County had so much momentum. They didn't look back. You see there, the games started out very close. The last two games, South County broke away. The two big reasons why, Lindsay Stevens and the Northern Region Tournament Most Valuable Player, Simone Otway. So both of these teams, though, advancing on to play in the state tournament. Those games took place last night. Langley losing, South County winning, so they are still in the tournament, advancing on to play on Thursday night. Now, Paul, I know you were there as well. You've covered these South County Stallions this year. I've been impressed with them, but I think the fact that they won the Northern Region Championship, now everyone's talking about them.
It's Lindsay Stevens and Simone Otway coming together. I mean, when I talked with Sue Shiflett after the game, the Langley head coach, she said, with Robinson, we worried about one big hitter. With South County, we got two big hitters, and she says they saw South County earlier on in the year, and she said, Simone Otway, she's grown so much, already a Division I recruit, and she's grown so much just this year. So with Stevens, with Otway, just coming together, you know, South County is playing some good volleyball right now and winning their first Northern Region title. Hey, who knows, you know, they can make it to the finals on Saturday.
I know nothing about volleyball.
Well, before we leave volleyball, Paul did have an opportunity to talk with Dave Prawl and Simone Otway at the end of the game, so we'll show you that interview and just how excited the South County Stallions were.
Coach Dave Prawl and Simone Otway are player of the game. Coach, just talk about your emotion right now.
It's just incredible. We've been working so hard this whole season. You know, just practices for the last 3 months or so. And, you know, just they've gone way beyond the expectations that we had for this season. You know, our goal was initially just get to the regional semifinal and just to take out the number 1 and number 3 team in the state of Chantilly and Stonebridge. I mean, those were just so emotional and just phenomenal. And, you know, then we got Langley and we knew we'd get after that.
Simone, talk to me about your emotions and how you feel after winning the region title.
It's exciting, you know, like, I don't know.
Speechless, maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
Coach, tell me about Simone and Lindsay Stevens. They were just amazing for you.
They are the backbone of our team. You know, if at any point any of those two were just off, then we would have a very difficult time winning a match. I believe Simone had about, when I tracked, she about 25 to 30 kills tonight. That is one of the season highs this year. And throwing about 4 or 5 blocks in there, she's just lights out.
Simone, you guys went down in the first game, down to Langley, and then in the last 2 games you won by double digits. What was the difference towards the end of the match?
Well, first game we were kind of like all jittery, so the second through fourth game we calmed down and we started playing our game.
Tell me about Lindsay Stevens.
She's amazing.
Coach, this year was the first time you won a region game, and you told me before this match that you felt like maybe pushovers last couple of years at the region level. Now you're region champs.
Yeah, this is the 5th year that our school has been around after we broke away from Hayfield 5 years ago. We were always that pushover team. We won 2 games our very first year, and we were always that team like, oh, we're just gonna play South County. We're gonna crush them. So we've been, with Lindsay coming in and Simone coming through, along with our back row defense and our great serving, we're one of the top teams in the region now. It's exciting.
The South County Stallions, Northern Region champs. Back to you, Monica.
Okay, so there you have it. We'll keep you posted with what happens as the state tournament proceeds onward. But now let's talk a little bit about Division 5 football. Those quarterfinal games going on this past weekend as well. The first one, the number 1 seed Stonebridge Bulldogs taking on South Lakes. This one a little bit of deja vu because they met during the last week of the regular season. They also squared off against each other during the first game of the playoffs. And you see there Stonebridge having a big win over South Lakes, and a big reason for that was Marcus Harris. We've talked about him all season long, but I've been so impressed with him. Probably doesn't get as much mention as he should. He's carried that team a lot of the way. And then Brian Rohde, their transfer quarterback, 83 passing yards and a touchdown. But I do want to talk about Jawan Jones because his season over, but you have to talk about what an amazing season he had. Great picture that we have for you there of Jawan Jones. He was one of the top running backs as well. There were so many good ones in all 4 of the districts this year, guys. But Stonebridge, they're always someone that has a bullseye on their back, and they're showing why as they proceed onward in the Division 5 playoffs.
Phil, are the bags under my eyes really that big, as we just saw in that interview?
Not anymore. I think it was the tie was the problem.
Oh, okay. But yeah, okay, let's get back to Stonebridge winning a playoff game, the number 1 seeded Bulldogs. I mean, Phil, what is there to say?
You could have the memory of the guy from Memento. Remember the last time these 2 teams played? Just 7 days ago, these teams met in Week 10. Stonebridge led 38-7 through 3 quarters. South Lakes in 6 all-time meetings. This was the fewest points they've ever allowed against Stonebridge. We check out the highlights, and it was a Stonebridge offense, though, getting it done early. Here, direct snap going to Marcus Harris, 3-yard plunge. They had 6 first downs, Stonebridge did on this drive. South Lakes for the game had just 9. Your score, 7-0 Bulldogs, but early second. Stonebridge defense saying, hey, hold up, South Lakes. South Lakes not respecting the pause. Takes it 14 yards. Jawan Jones, 4 score, 10 carries, 66 yards. That touchdown, your score at the moment, 7-7. But direct snap going to Brian Rohde this time, and he and Taylor Lamke, best friends on one. Best friends. 7-yard touchdown toss. Rohde to Lamke, 14-7. Bulldogs at the recess now, early second half. More Marcus Harris. Set the school record for carries this season. Huge part of the team, as Monica said. 27 carries, buck 17. 2 scores in this game. And here, Kyle Gouveia polishing things off, taking it to the unpainted grass here at Marshall High School, where the game was moved to. 3-yard score, 28 ticks left in the third quarter. Your final, 28-7 to the Bulldogs. Stonebridge in the fourth quarter allowed South Lakes to run 13 plays for 17 total yards. Rob Burns himself. Don't talk a lot about the Stonebridge defense with so many stars on offense, but the defense has been the key for this team in the big games. It will be the key next week. Get to our picks soon enough. Rob Burns, 3 tackles for loss in this game.
Monica is right. Jawan Jones had a great season. Had South Lakes lived up to the promise of what they showed earlier on in the year, maybe we'd be talking about him more, but still a great season for Jawan Jones. Let's keep things going. Robert E. Lee taking on McLean. Monica has all the details.
That's right, Lee squaring off against McLean. If anyone was wondering whether Idris Augustus' injury was still hampering him, just look at those numbers. He combined with Jasmine Williams for almost 300 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. Once again, Riley Byro tries to rally his team, continuing on about running backs that really do so much for their team. Riley Byro, many games this season, has tried to take his team on his back. Not enough against Robert E. Lee. Guys, they are looking very strong right now. we all like them in the Division V playoffs. I think a lot of people have to think they're one of the favorites.
Yeah, they had a little blip there later on in the season, but it looks like Robert E. Lee is back. Jersey running wild.
Well, I think two reasons for the little blip you mentioned. One, Jersey's absence. I mean, when any team loses its best player, it's not going to play as well. And that's no shot to Jasmine Williams and Greg Lopez because they did beat West Springfield, put up a lot of numbers without Jersey in the lineup. But also the game against West Potomac, which I think the one you're referring to, horrendous conditions on that field. West Potomac really able to take advantage of their size, their superior size. But remember, only team to beat Woodson this year is Lee. And they showed us why. First quarter, we picked this one up. McLean, though, moving the ball. McLean actually ran 30 of the first 31 plays in this game, but they get down to the 2-yard line. Defense coming up big. Eric Wright, Steven Lisinski. So turnover on downs. Lee has the ball at its own 2. Still scoreless, but not for long because footing not good in the end zone. Jasmine Williams slips. 2-point for McLean. They're up 2-0 after a sacrifice bunt. Here, Riley Byro ensuing possession. Remember, 30 of the first 31 plays run by McLean. They held an advantage in total yards at that point. 174 to -2, but Lee eventually would get some snaps, and that was a problem for the Highlander defense because Drizzy's back. His first 2 carries went for 49 yards. Leafs, though, at the moment still down 9-0 after that Byro score, but only for the moment. CJ Lewis on 4th and 5, okey dokes the DB. Tackle, though, at the 1. Drizzy would punch it in. We're not showing it, but don't worry, Drizzy Augustus fantasy owners, you'll get your full of Drizzy. Your score at this second, 9-7 in favor of McLean, but Lee getting it done through the air. Greg Lopez going upstairs to Aaron Jackson. Do we just become best friends? Yup. 51-yard touchdown toss, Lopez to Jackson. Lee takes the lead 14-9 with just over a minute left in the half, but Riley Byro, 78-yard kick return on the ensuing kickoff would set up this 6-yard score. Byro, 116 of his 168 yards came before halftime. McLean leads 16-14 at the break. Second half, though, Drizzy breaking off a little something. 26-yard touchdown trot for Andreas, putting Lee back in front, 21-16. Then all that jazz. Jasmine Williams, 19-yard touchdown run of his own. Lee extends its lead at this point to 28-7. Then more Jazzy taking it 55 yards. Put up your hand and wave goodbye. 55-yard score for Williams. He finished with a lot of yards. I lost track, 117. But Lee, more problems with his snaps. This has been the one issue for this team. Ball's kicked out of the back of the end zone. Jimmy Ludwig, did he recover it in time? Referee dramatically rules safety on this play. But it appears as we take a second look that Jimmy Ludwig may have recovered it. Watch his feet. Appears to pull it into his body before his feet hit the ground. Could have counted for 7 as opposed to 2, but when they get the ball for 2, they get the ball back. They did. They fumbled. Lee going back the other way. Drizzy Augustus. Monix showed you the stats before. Buck, 16 carries, 116 yards, 3 trips to the promised land. Lee takes out McLean, outscores them in the second half, 28-2 to get the win. Drizzy, Jasmine combined for 278 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns.
Robert E. Lee looking pretty good. You know who's also looking pretty good, Phil?
Who's that, Paul?
Hayfield. Monica has all the details.
Right, there was nothing that Hayfield couldn't do right in the Division V quarterfinals. They squared off against Yorktown. They ended up coming up with 4 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 blocked field goals, everything clicking on all cylinders for Hayfield. You see Rayshawn Riggins there just continuing with the trend. The theme of today's show is these running backs. Rayshawn Riggins, 205 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Sam Nottingham there for Yorktown, 197 passing yards, but then those 4 interceptions. Yorktown just could not keep up with these Hayfield Hawks.
All right, so Hayfield, me and Phil doing a little bit of math here. 5 Liberty District teams were in the playoffs this year. That's got to be most of any district.
Yeah, but this is a National District game, Paul. Keep your focus.
Sorry.
National District game, Yorktown Hayfield, a rematch of the Week 4 game that Yorktown only trailed by 1 with 4.5 minutes to go before Hayfield turned an interception into quick points, won that game 27-19. We took a look at this game, though, not as close this time around. Yorktown starting out good. They drove all the way down to the Hayfield 3-yard line, but Michael Dolas having his kick blocked by Justin Marshall. Ball goes to Nazrul Islam. Thought it was like an extra point for a second. Didn't realize he could return it, but no one in sight. He takes off 86 yards. What's he doing tonight? Not too much, Paul. Just heading back to the crib. 86-yard field goal return for a score. Hayfield up 6-zippy. Yorktown dominated time of possession early in the game. They actually held the ball for 9 minutes and 7 seconds as opposed to Hayfield's 2:53 in the first quarter. But when plays like this happen, it explains why Hayfield didn't have the ball too long, because Rayshawn Riggins is fast. He took it 68 yards with 52 ticks left in the first quarter, and he needs to slow down. It's a neighborhood 68-yard score, 13-0. Hayfield now ensuing kickoff. Yorktown trying to get things going. And when I show a kickoff for Yorktown, things usually go well because C.J. Bartholomew is quite a return man, but Hashim Cisse had a day. Knocks the ball loose, and Nazrul Islam, you want me on that ball, you need me on that ball. Cisse, 2 pass breakups, 2 picks, and that fumble forced Islam returned the kick for a score and had that key fumble recovery at the 35-yard line, and it took just one play, Paul. Anton McCollum in his 4.45 40 in the triple option, and much like the chocolate in the Neapolitan ice cream, the first option is the best. Takes it himself, 35 yards for a score. You're not going to really use that call no matter if he gave it to the fullback, kept it himself. It's very versatile. 20-0 after one. Hayfield rushed for 386 yards as a team in this game, and again, 20-0 after one. Anton McCollum getting the call from the sideline, and I think the call is give it to number 8 and get out of the way. Watch Rayshawn bounce off 2 tacklers. You think he's down, but a little Houdini act gets it over the goal line for his second rushing touchdown. And oh, Paul, he was not done. Rayshawn on this day. Remember, through the first 4 games of the season, had multiple touchdowns in every game. But here, Hashim Cisse mentioned his 2 interceptions. This one was nice. Watch it bounce it off his own face mask with the receiver playing as a defensive back, pulls it down, gets his feet down, inbounds, score. At this point, 27-0. Hayfield taking over with under 3 minutes left at its own 20-yard line, but it took all of 3 plays because Rayshawn, he was going ham. 10 carries, 205 yards, 3 scores in the first half, 2 touchdowns of 68 yards or longer, including this one, 69 yards away. Hayfield up 34-0 at recess. That would be your final. Rayshawn Riggins' mom this week, responsible for Little Debbie snack cakes after the game. Great choice there. Hayfield gives up a touchdown late and gives us our final 34-6.
Well-deserved snack cakes. Well-deserved. Okay,
and
so the reason
Squeeze-Its with the face on the side.
The reason I mentioned Liberty District 5 teams, only 2 teams advanced after the first round. One of them was Stonebridge. One of them was Madison. Monica has the details.
Madison squaring off against Edison. The good news for Edison was that they had Levi Barber back. Of course, he missed the last week of the regular season with an injury. He was back. The bad news for Edison is they could not stop Tavin Thomas. You see there 126 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. We've talked about him a lot on the program this season. He had a huge night. Guys, Levi Barber and Angus Harper tried to counter. Harper having a good night, not the numbers we've seen him have in other games, but Madison looking very good. As you said, Paul, one of the 2 Liberty District teams that do advance on.
And these 2 Liberty District teams will meet. We'll talk about our picks later on. Phil, Madison looking pretty good over Edison.
Yeah, and the thing we want to talk about all year with Madison, their defense. They rank number 1 in Division 5 or Division 6 in the Northern Region in points per game allowed. But this offense has had its 3 highest point per game totals in the last 3 weeks. Actually, the 3 highest individual game totals in the last 3 weeks. So this offense getting it done. And as we look at the highlights, we see it's a diversity of backs, including the quarterback, Eric Rowland. Who knew he was a dual threat? Jet sweep, strong side, fakes the handoff, and he's taking it himself. Number 11, diving for the pylon, using every inch of that 6'2" frame. That was a complete guess. I hope he's 6'2". 11-yard score. It's 7-0. But Edison coming back. Here's Levi Barber, as Monica mentioned, dialing up Mark Kresak. Go up and get it, big fella. On 4th and 10, 22-yard grab down to the 3-yard line. And it took all of 1 play for Angus Harper to capitalize. But watch Angus improvise. Harper goes left on the counter, nothing doing, so hey, why not? We'll try this short side of the field. Levi Barber, great ceiling block, kind of. Angus Harper, 3-yard touchdown run. That made it 7-all. But from that point on, it was all Madison. James Devins, no recognition on the Liberty All-District team. Kind of bizarre. He was a first-team All-Region kicker last year. He's had a pretty decent season. 25-yard field goal gives us our score at the break. Band comes out on the field, 10-7. Now, Chris Samis would intercept the second play of the second half, giving up a short field for Madison, and Tavin Thomas, yeah, he'll do that. 1-yard touchdown run, his first. Here comes his second after an Edison field goal. I'm having it. Thomas, 14 carries, 126 yards, 2 scores. His first 3 carries went for 86 yards. So at the end, a lot of short yardage, grinding out the win. We'll be seeing more from Madison in the top play segment also to come.
That was the quarterfinals. We will be getting to our predictions for the semifinals. Let's take a quick break and talk about cross country. The state meet was held over the weekend, and looking at the boys' highlights, Oakton coming in second in the boys. Mountain View first, Oakton second, and then Lake Braddock over there in fourth, West Potomac in ninth. So a good showing for Oakton. Kevin Dowd, though, for Fairfax, finished the highest of the Northern Region runners. He was third, and then a whole host of Concord District runners. And remember, Fairfax used to be in the Concord District. Chris Foley, Andrew McCullen had a great race in the Northern region, so a whole host of Northern region runners there for the boys. Big story, though, was for the girls, where Lake Braddock upsets Midlothian. Midlothian, 4 straight state titles. Lake Braddock beats them this year, winning the state title. Sophie Chase for Lake Braddock, only a freshman, mind you.
And best runner and the best running name in the region, Sophie Chase.
And the best runner in this meet in the region, finished 3rd from Lake Braddock. Maya Hicks, Alex Watt, Liana Epstein, Sophie's teammate, finishes 16th. Just a great day for Lake Braddock. And just one quick little nugget, Midlothian had 4 straight state titles. They were going for their 5th. That is a record, tied with who?
Lake Braddock. A
lot of motivation. Lake Braddock, these seniors had not won a state title, and they were trying to stop Midlothian from getting the solo record with 5 straight state titles. Okay, so that's cross country. Monica, go ahead and have a little bit more about cross country.
That's right. I don't think we can talk about Northern Region cross country without talking a little bit about West Potomac and head coach Don Beebe, who is stepping down after this season, his 25th at West Potomac. And this was a good note to go out on because his boys finished 9th, and that's with 2 of their top runners having swine flu, missing a lot of the postseason. And then their girls finishing 4th, win the tiebreaker against Maggie L. Walker. This is the first time in his coaching career that both his boys team and his girls team has advanced on to states. Storied career over at West Potomac, 2 state championships, 3 runners-up. Fantastic career. So a fond farewell to Don Beebe. I know he's going to be missed very much over at West Potomac by all of us in the Northern region. But again, fantastic job by the Wolverines at the state meet. All right. Well, before we go, of course, we'll jump right back into football. As you know, at the end of the show, we always go through our top 5 plays of the week. So, Phil, we'll let you do the honors and unveil them.
Top 5 plays of the week time. And remember, if you disagree with anything in my top 5, be sure to send an email to pmurphy@digitalsports.com, title them FSR Top 5, so I know which ones to delete. We'll go with the top 5 plays of the week. Jim, let's get it rolling. Top 5 plays. We started actually number 6. Paul, I've been saying all year, Mike Ferris needs to run a wheel route. I think Coach Lawley knew this is the last game of the season. Mike Ferris runs a wheel route, 18-yard reception. We get the Ferris wheel. Okay, now really to the top 5. Top 5 plays of the week. Start things off in Woodson Oakton with the kick, the punt. Watch the bottom left corner of your screen, though. Tyler Monday fields a punt on the hop, and Oakton D's got a case of the Mondays because we got one block coming here. James Johnson, boom. Patrick Bolger, bang, and then Bertrand Mgampa springs them. 36-yard return. It would have been number 1, Paul. You're raising up your hands if he would have scored, but knocked out at the 12. So you get number 5. Number 5 is not bad. 3 massive blocks, though, from the Woodson defense on this play. You see him going nuts on sideline. Number 4, we got a pair of outstanding defensive plays. First, Glenn Meet the Mets gets in, hits Levi Barber's arms, picked off by Liberty District Defensive Player of the Year, Kevin Sampson. We're going to be taking a second look at this one because really watch what Mets does. Gets pressure on Barber, great coming through, beating the guard there, and then knocking the ball from his hand. Kevin Sampson, great instincts to pick it up. That resulted in Tyvin Thomas's final touchdown. Madison knocked out Edison 31-10, avenging the team that knocked them out of the playoffs the last 2 years. Sticking at number 4, because, Paul, we have an FOP, friend of the program, Eric Cardillo, making a play. He watches FSR every week, gets a pressure on Anton McCollum, and don't blink, you might miss it. He rips the ball from Levi Barber, kind of a defensive stature of Liberty play. Pulls it from Barber, gets the sack, returned it. That set up the second block field goal. Again, we take a second look. Watch Cardillo just rip it from McCollum's hand on the release. That gets credit for sack, fumble, forced fumble recovery, the trifecta. Speaking of trifecta, this one should have been worth 3 points. We saw this in the highlight. Kick coming from Michael Dola, second-team All-District kicker, but Justin Marshall blocks it. Ball goes to Nazrul Islam on the hop, and he's taking it over 80 yards back for the score. Hayfield knocks out Yorktown 34-6 in convincing fashion for their first playoff win, Paul, in 16 seasons for the Hawks, winning it 34-6. Move on now to number 2. Time ticking down in the first half, but it's all good because Connor Riley's going to Jonathan Stokes. You saw this one in the highlight. Bounces off 1 defender, 2 defenders. Colin Dempsey seals it. Changes the complexion of the game, making it 10-3 to 17-3 as time expires in the first half. But number 1, another half-expiring touchdown. This one, though, not only changed the complexion of the game, it changed the winner. Proved the game winner as Aaron Andrews going up top to Oniyemi Ayabote, super junior receiver. On the day, Andrews, 13 of 25 passing, buck 26, 1 touchdown, and a pick as I look on my paper. That's top 5 plays of the week. Paul, we do have picks this week, do we not?
Yeah, let's take a look at our picks last week. Really no upsets, nothing really happening in Division 5. All of us taking the favorites. The favorites all winning. Going on to Division 6, though, all of us taking the favorites. South County winning, Westfield. So looking at it right now, Paul, that's me,
That's
36 points. BJ in second with 35.
But you went against your alma mater, Paul. You sold out Fairfax. You went with Lake Braddock.
I'm
I hope
sorry.
you can sleep at night.
I sleep very well with my 36 points. You and Monica with 33, not much of a chance. Let's take a look at our picks this week. I said it, not much of a chance. This week, Stonebridge, Madison, Lee, Hayfield, Woodson, South County, Robinson, Lake Braddock.
Now, with these games, all 4 games are rematches of games that already have been played this season, and all are going to be taking place on the same field that they were played this season. 3 of the 4 within the last 5 weeks, and I was at 3 of those games. So we look across the board. Madison beating Stonebridge a couple weeks ago, 28-14. Yet all of us picked Stonebridge in this game. Got some bulletin board material there for the Warhawks.
Most definitely, and just so we're clear, this is probably one of the last weeks we're doing this. Me ahead of BJ by a point. Me and BJ had the same picks coming into the studio. BJ changes it, goes with Lake Braddock, goes with Hayfield, and it's the Lake Braddock-Robinson game.
Actually, BJ had Lake Braddock,
okay.
But he said if they won, you'd be tied. So he put up the 2 fingers. He went for 2 in the win, picking Hayfield to beat Lee. Remember, Lee only beat Hayfield by 5 back in week 3. Lake Braddock-Robinson. Lake Braddock has not beat Robinson since November 12th, 1999. Paul, you asked her my question earlier. Who would win a fight between a ram and a bear?
A bear.
You said a bear. I picked the Bears. The Bruins over the Rams in that game. Again, hasn't been done in 10 years, 12 games in fact, but we'll see if it happens. Monica, your thoughts on the picks?
Well, obviously the only one that is contested between us here at the Fairfax Sports Report is the Robinson-Lake Braddock game. I've seen both of these teams play. I was at the Lake Braddock-Fairfax game. They were working out some kinks there, as I said, during the highlight reel. A lot of things, a lot of mistakes going on. You heard Jim Poitras at the end of that with the interview. And so it would be interesting to see if they do work that out. That will be our game of the week, the one that we are a little bit divided on. So that is where we will be next week. So we'll have all of that for you. But before we go, once again, we do want to thank the folks that help make our program possible, our good friends at CCI Screen Printing for all of your needs. Also, special thanks to Craig Sturbutzel at www.fatboyphotos.com for all those fantastic photos that you saw throughout this episode. You can get copies of this program and all of the games we broadcast from throughout the region at www.pressboxvideo.com. And also you can check out highlight reels, interviews, and get news and notes from our website, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Become a fan of this program on our Facebook page. And again, please do send us any comments, suggestions, story ideas, news notes, anything you want to share with us here at the Fairfax Sports Report. Well, again, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back with more about football, volleyball, everything that's still ongoing here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Again, thanks so much for joining us.